welcome to this week's edition of the Bi-Weekly Update here at Gentian. In the midst of summer vacation, where everybody's out traveling, having a great time. Oh wait, no, that might be interrupted by the variant that's going on. And taking a look at some of the data is extremely important. What I want to do in this is just begin a little bit about gratitude, going big, and positive focus. Positive focus is the last 2 or 3 weeks we've been able to see a lot of family, a lot of people we haven't seen in a long time. A lot of people outside meeting because the weather's been fabulous here. We haven't had rain in like 8 months. So it feels like every day you could go out and have a great time and not really even worry about it raining on people as well. But it's been about connecting with those who we haven't seen. It's having collisions with people again. It's going to be a stark difference. My time spent with people outside of different events has probably gone up exponentially from last year at this time, where I think as Zach's going to talk about some of the data, people have actually been doing the opposite. But I want to say I am simply grateful for people. I'm grateful for their kindness, their thoughtfulness, their company, their patience. Grateful for you, seeing you as clients as well from time to time. And again, your patience with what's been going on. We've adapted very well to this. And I want to say, I have a lot of gratitude for a lot of different things right now. Family as well. We're about to go to a wedding we've got coming up here for a few days. And it's really been wonderful. I see how much I miss people. You kind of forget it for a while until you see them again. And there's some magic that you offer us. I want to thank you tremendously for my gift. So my gratitude is for your gift to us, which is you. How about yourself, Zach?
Thank you, Chris. My quick positive focus, always enjoying sports and athletics, and human achievement is the Olympics. So I just love watching all those people. Imagine the hard work that they were putting in to perform last year, that have to perform this year with all the different things that they have to account for. It's been really fun to watch for USA purposes, but other countries as well. And it reminds me of the Memorial Day service quote that I heard again, which is still resonating with me, which is, let us not focus on what temporarily divides us, but what permanently unites us. So with all the uncertainty that we have, I'm grateful for all the reminders that the Olympics brings of everything that does unite us as a country.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Zach. How about yourself, Peter? Sorry.
Thanks, Chris. I'm grateful for the time I've been able to spend with my family recently. It's been nice to be able to get back to that little bit of normalcy.
I know you've had a ton of time with that. How about yourself, Ken?
Yeah, my wife just turned 40 recently, so she's fabulous in 40, and so we had a chance to celebrate that up in Door County. A lot of you travel up there. A lot of you have places up there, so thank you for sharing your experiences. So we experienced Sister Bay and Ephraim this last time, and so Egg Harbor is always on there, always stopping and getting fudge, of course. So that's what you do up in Door County. So just grateful for the experiences you share with us about Door County, and then hopefully we can share those experiences with you as well for Door County as well. So, but my wife turned 40, so I'm grateful for that.
Awesome, Ken. Now you're in trouble for telling everybody how old she is.
But she's fabulous in 40, so that's okay then.
Good deal. Good deal. Good deal. I appreciate that. I'll go to the housekeeping here in just a moment, but it's kind of funny. We're about to head out on some vacation and family gathering, which is pretty funny. But my wife is really mad at me because I have no sense whatsoever of direction. So I packed up my stuff and I write. Let me try it again. I packed up my stuff and I write rather than let that stress me. It's often a good one. So I appreciate that as well. But before we get to the important stuff here, again, thank you all for your wonderful, wonderful company. Thank you for what we've been doing together, if you will, and what you've been sharing with us. It's really very helpful for us to see, and we'll talk more about that. With the most important thing, though, housekeeping, Julie, what's going on today that we need to know about? Because I know there is a ton, and this is where I get to know what's going on in the firm as well.
Thank you very much, Chris. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Yes, there's a lot of upcoming events, so I'd like to remind you of those. Coming up this Saturday, which is August 7th, we have Music in the Park. Gentian is a proud sponsor of that. That is going to be held in the Thiensville Village Park. It goes from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. So there'll be a number of live musical performances, food trucks, different activities. Gentian is We'll have a tent to the right side of the stage, so we would love for you to join us there. If you think you will be attending, please RSVP so we could plan accordingly. There will be a number of us Gentian team members there, so we'd love to see you there. Then coming up Sunday, August 8th, kicks off National Smile Week. So put on that happy face and brighten someone's day by smiling at them. So Wednesday, August 18th is our next Gentian bi-weekly update. So please register for that. That starts at 9 a.m. again. And then Thursday, August 26th will be our next Ladies and Gentian gathering. So if you haven't been able to join us in the past, we'd love for you to join us. It's a good way to connect with other women of Gentian. So we'd love to have you join us for that. So please register in advance. And then to end the month, Tuesday, August 31st is National Eat Outside Day. So the weather should still be pretty nice the end of August. So please support a local business and enjoy dinner or lunch with family and friends. So be a nice another day to kind of catch up with people. So that's what's happening here the rest of August. So hope everyone has a great day, and I will turn it back over to Chris.
Thank you very much, Julie. I appreciate that as well. So one of the things we're heading into as well here is another period of time where people have differences of opinion. It's interesting because I'm reading a great book that I think I'm going to do a book club with that everybody can read. I know our team is going to as well, but it's called Love Your Enemies from Arthur C. Brooks. And what it is, it's really brought up a lot of different things that show, remember how you used to be able to disagree with someone or something, and it would be just a simple disagreement. You'd come to some reasonable understanding and you'd move on. Today, it's turned into contempt. That's completely different. Contempt is an environment where we foster, well, this is my opinion. And if you're not in my opinion, not only is your opinion wrong, but you're a bad person and you kill puppies or something. It's just something that crazy, literally that crazy in some cases, where it's just not true. It reminds me of a song, The Russians by Sting, way back in the Cold War, when a lot of us used to think that the Russians were the problem. And I thought about it as a kid, going, I really don't know any Russians. Sting came up with a song called I Hope the Russians Love Their Children Too. And really brought to me this idea of, people are pretty much probably the same most everywhere you go. But if you don't know about them, you can paint whatever picture of fear you want in your mind. The same thing is occurring here with contempt. Contempt is a feeling or attitude of regarding someone or something as inferior, having inferior, baseless, or worthless with scorn. Another one is a state of being despised or dishonored, open disrespect or willful disobedience of the authority of a court of law or legislative body. Contempt is actually quite an interesting idea. What I look at it is, when you feel contempt, when people are preaching contempt, look at it with love. How do you combat it? You warmth, love, understanding, knowing that people are going through a lot right now. This wave again, just like a correction in the market. I can't tell you how many people have mentioned the correction of 2009, and they can never go through that again. I say, I've got some good news and bad news. Good news is you're with us. Bad news is you're going to go through another correction. It's just what happened. And we had one of the pandemic earlier. People forget. The trend of the uptrend historically is a long-term uptrend, temporarily fraught by periods of irrationalness. That's the market. We don't know when it's going to happen, but we know that it will. And we know what we're going to do when it does. So really interesting as you go through, attempting to look at this idea of what's going on with the vax, the anti-vax, the Republican, the Democrat, the pro-bill, the pro-infrastructure bill, the non-pro-infrastructure bill. Hopefully we're beginning to make some inroads where I think two opposite sides of political parties actually got together and put something together that might pass in an infrastructure bill. It's amazing that they work together for the first time in forever, right? It's like kids not playing well together. But it's an interesting piece that I see on a go-forward basis. And I'd say that, sometimes we'll just have a straightforward theme here, if you will. I'm going to call it Love Your Enemies. So it's a great book. If you have some interest, let us know. We'll probably do it as a group read. I'm probably two to three chapters in, so maybe I shouldn't send that out so far because I don't know what the last 4 chapters are yet. But I do say there's some great stuff in it. It's a bit geeky. There's a lot of studies in it. It's the kind of stuff I like to read. But this one's really caught my eye going, this is what we all need now. So I want to put that out there for some of you who are watching this for the few now. I won't put it out to everyone until maybe I finish the book here in the next week or two. But really wanted to throw out some of these ideas because it's really been hitting me is patience, kindness. I think we've seen several of our team on our development day last week say that people really are showing a lack of kindness to others and even a lack of the basic gratitude. And I've seen some of that myself as well. So I guess we can be part of the problem and just be the same, or we can be part of the solution. So I'd say as a team, as Gentian, as our Gentian warriors and Gentian Spartans, if you will, let's go out and be nice to people today. Maybe it's a little bit different. So with that, I know there's some great pieces that I would like to have Zach bring up about the market and some different pieces going on there as well. Before I bring that up though, I always like to go from time to time to CNBC just because I get this important news there. I'm joking, I don't. But it's interesting, you know, the WHO calls for a moratorium on the COVID vaccine boosters, at least through September, because they're not quite sure. Yellen says Biden's agenda is key to keeping the U.S. world preeminent economic power. Another one, though, is private companies added 330,000 jobs in July, according to ADP, but they expected 650,000. So these are all the little things that happen on a day-to-day basis for whatever reason they are. It's the middle of summer. People don't want to go out and look for jobs. They want to wait until it gets to be fall, whatever the number is. It's interesting as well. Robinhood has become, I think, 50% of all retail accounts set up in the past 5 years by new investors have been Robinhood. And to those people who've been in the business a very long time, it causes massive volatility because you've got a lot of people who have no idea what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, making decisions. And on average, the person who sets up a new account checks their account in the value 7 times a day, on average. So that means some people are way more. You know what that does? That leads to bad behavior. But these are the kind of headlines that are often rolling through. Zach said something about the Olympics. This is one of those times, if you can go back to your kids every 4 years to when you were a kid, to when your children were at the house as well. It's really interesting to watch. The Olympics give me a sense of, first of all, I'm looking for Bob Costas, because he's basically narrated my Olympics for the last 40 years. And he's not there. And I'm like, okay, who's this new guy? I almost don't understand it. It's funny how they become part of who you are and your experience as well. But what's really interesting about it, there's ways to watch it now where you can go to 100 different channels and you can record it all. And I started doing some of that, watching the women's volleyball, the men's volleyball and all. And then I decided the most fun that I have, even though I often know the results, is watching that segment from 7 to 9 or to 10:30 at night. And I'll fast forward through it. But I love watching that segment because it's something we can collectively share. What I notice, if I go watch skating, if I go watch some obscure sport on here, I talk to people, hey, did you see the skating and the da-da-da-da-da? People go, no, you can't share it. That's not fun, right? But when you can see, a woman win the 800 who was, their parents, the whole family was, behind it, sitting at home somewhere in New Jersey, and you see her win the 800 by 4 or 5 seconds and she wasn't supposed to, that's awesome. That's a collective sharing. You see Simone Biles. And one thing I'm going to tell you about too, and I'm sorry, I'm rambling on here a bit, but this is really striking me lately. The one biggest issue we're not talking about, but I'm experiencing lately, is mental illness amongst our children between the ages of 14 and 24. You're seeing some of that with Simone Biles. You're seeing some of that with Naomi Osaka. It's beginning to be shown because the weaknesses that have always been there are now actually, they're being vulnerable enough to let people know about them. So it's okay to have that. Almost every family, almost every person suffers from those at some point in time. I know we've often supported NAMI, National Association of Mental Illness, but I think it's a focus that we need both for our children, our kids, our teenagers, our young children, ourselves, our parents, our friends, is to really look at how can we help with the mental. I saw a Foo Fighters concert recently, and the drummer Taylor Hawkins had a shirt that said mental wealth. And I looked at that, I got to go find that. I got to buy that shirt. I love it. Mental wealth. We talk about, true wealth, but I love mental wealth as a part of that. How do we make sure we have great well-being? So anyway, just several things I've seen that I thought were important. And I really honestly would have to say the most important thing that strikes me at my heart is the mental wellness of our children, of ourselves. That's how we perceive the world. That's how we perceive each other in our day. So really want to focus on some of that and see what we can do. And on a go-forward basis, we'll see if we can bring some resources that are helpful to you to help others and to attack that. With that, I apologize, I rambled on a little bit longer, Zach, but what do you have going on with markets, Zach?
Thank you, Chris. The S&P 500 and across the board of all the numbers about to list are about 2% higher from our last bi-weekly webinar across all categories. So S&P 500 up 17.76%. Dow Jones Industrial Average 14.74, and with the Dow Jones, 50 years from now, someone's going to come up and be like, I didn't look at points today. I looked at percentage. That's my goal with saying this every biweekly webinar. But as the numbers get bigger, what is the media going to tell us? What the point drop is, 1,000 point drop, 900 point drop, to scare us, to make us fearful, even though that's a normal percentage movement. So NASDAQ up 14.53. As a reminder, that's more heavily weighted towards technology. Russell 2000, 12.59% positive, with growth 4.52 and value 21.24. International, slight increase from 2 weeks ago as well, 7.57. The only one that has an increase that is still lagging behind is emerging markets as far as international equities go, and that's 1.17% positive on the year. So big desperation between S&P 500 large companies and emerging markets. The great news about that is if you're due for a rebalance right now, which happens on a disciplined process once per year for your accounts, what are you going to be buying more of right now? Emerging markets, right? So that's the beauty of rebalancing, and a disciplined process to sell high and buy low. Fixed income, across the board, everything has slightly dropped as far as rates. The 1 year 0.07% yield, 5 year 0.69%, the 10 year 1.24, and the 30 year 1.89. We hear a lot of requests or ideas of what can I do with some of this outside cash, and it's still very hard to find yield, as you guys have seen, with most of our savings accounts, money markets yielding 0.00 nothing right now. So what's really amazing about that, with the low yields in money markets and short-term bonds, in Q2 we found the largest net inflows for Q2 was money market, intermediate core bond, short-term bond, and inflation protected securities, and the largest outflows, even with the tremendous markets we have, large cap blend, large cap growth, mid cap growth, and foreign large growth. So very interesting to see the behavior of investors, even with incredible markets starting out. A few other really quick facts that we wanted to share with you is, according to Investors Business Daily, after a 6.5% growth in the US economy in Q2, it is now larger than the pre-COVID peak. So almost exactly a year and 3 months later, a pre-COVID peak, which is amazing to see. Even with the supply chain constraints, Ken will share a little bit more about this as well, but great earnings for the most part for companies, which is it because of low expectations or extreme earnings? Maybe a little bit of both, but Ken has a little bit more data on that one. And as Chris mentioned a few different ways as well, as it's a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. We all know that. There's always going to be a reason to be fearful, a reason to think about doing different things with our money. And it's just extremely important to maintain a long-term goal-focused perspective. And that is a thing that we've learned about 10 different ways over the last year, with the election, with COVID, and with everything else as well.
So Zach, what's interesting about what you said, and I often jump in with perspective on this, but a couple of things this brings to mind. Don't confuse a bull market with brilliance. I did when I started in the business. I was brilliant from 1994 to 2000. And then you know what happened. Then I realized what was true. We're seeing the same thing now. People who've hopped in the market in the last 4 or 5 years, they believe it's easy. They believe that it's simple. It is simple, but it's not easy. Another thing I look at as well is don't argue with the market. So you're seeing people doing exactly the wrong thing. So if you have a 30+ year rising income problem, and right now there's one asset class that historically has the returns to fund that, to keep your retirement risk low, and everybody is running out of that asset class. Tell me what sense that makes. None. The good news is, though, we help you stay in. We help you stay in that asset class, because the key is being in it. But again, if you're watching the news, it's crazy to look at what's happening there as well. Let me stop with that for a moment. Ken, how about yourself? How about what you have for us from planning? There's some great things I know we were talking about earlier, and you've come through this week. What are you seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be here with everybody. You know, when Chris was mentioning contempt, I thought that was very interesting. How many times have you been on a family vacation where you have 3 or 4 different opinions going on where you want to eat, or what do you want to do? And sometimes we look at that and, people get a little testy once in a while. People get angry once in a while. I mean, it happened as a family, we communicate very well, but even up in Door County this last weekend, that happens all the time. There's a 1-year-old, there's a 4-year-old, there's a 6, 8, 10-year-old involved, right? And again, my wife and Chris is talking about the same thing. Show love in those situations where you almost kind of disagree with somebody. You're like, I'm not sure why they're doing that. But instead of doing that, show love, and I'm guilty of this one and I'm getting better at that. But show love when you can show love, because that's really the only answer that we all have in that. Chris also mentioned the rising income problem for the next 30 years. One of our great coaches said this. I said this to one of our clients the other day, is you don't bring your IRA to the grocery store. I thought that was a funny line. You don't bring your IRA to the grocery store, but you surely bring your income. And that's something we focus heavily on a retirees portfolio, is making sure that we are structured properly for income. We think about it all the time when it comes to retirees and how do we drive income for you, okay? So some planning ideas are basically, when you look at this, we're hearing some tax ideas for some clients and some tax professionals we work with. It's hard to double up on deductions these days just because of the standard deduction being so high. But there was a strategy, and there still is a strategy when it works in the right situation, of doubling up on deductions in 1 year. So if we can do that, that's a great thing. If not, then we have to take a look at, qualified charitable distribution planning, whether it's to the church, whether it's to an organization, whether it's fundraising for a school. There's so many different ways to give through your IRA if that's what you choose to do. That's if we're 70 and a half. Now, if we're not 70 and a half, there's also giving away highly appreciated stock as well. That one gets overlooked a little bit because there's been so much focus on QCDs in the news and in the planning, but highly appreciated stock in a personal account can accomplish very much the same thing as well. So talk to us about your goals, your vision on what you want to do there, and we'll be happy to help you out. That leads into the next topic of family wealth planning. Now, we've talked in the past about preparing for an inheritance that you're going to get, but there's also planning for an inheritance that you plan to give as well. There's two sides to that story. So we're having more and more family wealth conversations with clients. It's fantastic when the families get together at the table and mom and dad are talking about what their plans are, and the kids are there listening and also giving their opinion as well. There is a way to optimize wealth from a family planning standpoint, whether it's Roth conversion planning, whether it's personal account planning. There's a lot of different ways we can help you structure that to make sure the money stays in your family if that's your goal. Okay, so we can certainly help you out with that. Now, Zach also mentioned earnings this recently here. Q2 earnings, Q2 earnings here in 2021 have been spectacular. From Bloomberg, from a client of mine who works at Huntington Bank, sent me over this one, and basically 296 of the S&P 500 companies have reported spectacular earnings so far. That 296 companies of the S&P 500 represent 71% of the market cap. So a good substantial amount of the S&P 500 has already, recorded earnings. 88% of them that have reported earnings have blown out and exceeded expectations. Now, some of those expectations may have been set a little lower, but certainly they are exceeding expectations. On average, it's about 16% above what the expectation was and what people were hoping for. So again, earnings have been very good. There's a lot of demand out there that's going to drive up earnings as well as we go through here. So those are some of the highlights I'm hearing from all of you. So thank you for sharing, your questions during meetings. I really appreciate it. And we're here to help you, big or small.
Thank you, Ken. That's awesome. I appreciate that as well. I mean, some of the things Ken's talking about are epic when it comes to some of the different ideas, the giving, the ideas of how we can give, because we are plan it, live it, and give it. So when it really comes to it, we're always studying each one of those. And you ask us amazing questions. One of the ideas that's been hitting lately for my clients that I've been talking about is moving into an alternative living facility before you have to, and how important it's been to do it when you can make the decision versus when you have to. Some of the correlations around it are, let's say I live in a house that I've lived in for 50 years and all of a sudden I can no longer do it. Who decides what happens to everything? So one of my clients just this weekend had his daughter and son up, and they already moved from a house to a condo, but he still had storage bins and storage units. So they went to the storage units as he's moving into an independent location as well, a wonderful one. But a lot of my clients are beginning to make those decisions now while they can. And that's an important piece to take into account. It's more important than when you have to. It surprised me in the first probably 3 or 4 or 5 years when I saw clients doing this, but now I'm seeing it on a regular basis. So it's something we're going to start bringing up more of. It's what's on your mind as you've moved through retirement to this. We want to stay there with you and be able to bring resources to you that can help you have a better experience on the live it side of the equation. So obviously we've helped you plan it. You're now living it, but living it's acquiring different things and different issues we want to face. And then at the point, as Ken is talking about, giving it as well, QDR, qualified distributions when it comes to 70 and a half, or giving away things in proper forms, but really minimizing tax to your whole family. So a couple of things that are also hitting me right now is how much, we recently got a wonderful article from one of our kind of preeminent coaches, if you will, Nick Murray. And he really talks about, it's called something, the signal and the noise. First I looked at it, I go, I don't know what you're talking about. There's so much noise going on, I can't actually hear what you're talking about. That's exactly what he's saying. The signal is the constant message that is simple and it's very easy to hear and not easy to do. The signal is talking about the long-term uptrend of the market or the proper planning. The noise is everything else that happens. Social media is probably the single biggest, and this is in his opinion, I also would echo that, one of the single biggest spreading of fear we've ever seen. If you go back 10 years ago, social media didn't really exist. Your cell phone wasn't really a key, component of what you had. This is 11 years old, by the way. One thing I'd like to say is, do you know what's happened in the 11 years since the advent of this? Let's talk about several things. You can see stock prices have gone up, but at what expense? The social and mental wellness of us and our children. How much time we don't spend with other people now. We are beings who are supposed to spend time with each other. Yet this allows us to think we are by looking at pictures of other people spending time and all the good things that are happening to them. And still, that's not happening to me in some small way. To a lot of us, it's like, oh, I'm not out vacationing. I'm not out eating phenomenal food. I'm not out doing all this. I'm actually at home mowing the lawn. I'm picking weeds out of the crafts out of the front walk. Those aren't very exciting. I don't post those, and I don't see many social media pictures of somebody at home sick. I don't see people, picking weeds. You never see that, do you? So just kind of an interesting thing to say what's reality, and I'll take all of our life's high points and share those versus all points. It's a little bit different as you run into those as well. So those are a couple of things I'd said. The signal is very much the message. We'll talk more about this as we go forward, and I'll put the message more together, but this really struck me. The noise is huge, kind of like the mower you can hear outside. That's the noise. I queued him up right now. If you can hear the mower, there's a mower outside my office. That's the noise. The signal is our voice, so concentrate on the signal. I just wanted to do it with an illustration versus the way we normally see it. Another thing to look at is data. So a lot of things have been going on. I would say, really look at data. A lot of people are saying things are happening. Oh, this is happening, that's happening. Oh my gosh, look at this thing blowing up. When you look at data, and I've always been a fan of looking at data when it comes to taxes, investments, and everything else, the data shows a different story oftentimes. You can get anyone saying how bad this is, oh my gosh, this is horrible. And if 1,000 people say it, you think, oh, this must be really bad. But then you look at the data and go, right now, the bluff at Lake Michigan is falling in everywhere. Everybody's house is going to fall into the lake because it had these lake, issues and it's lapping up against the side. And then you go over to the lake and you look at the data and go, well, there's one house that was affected. The other 10,000 really aren't yet. So it's interesting. I've always been looking at data and real different items as well. One of the things I had, and this was a great reading I had as well from Love Your Enemies, but this is a great quote and it's something to live by. It is what we do. It is what we do that determines how we feel. Think about that for a moment. It is in what we do that determines how we feel. A lot of times when you don't do anything, you feel bad because you didn't do anything about it, and you feel like I just want to relax. But when you've done something great for someone else, and I've been working with my daughters on this lately, it's in doing something that actually helped us feel better as humans. You gave something to someone, you went out of your way to be kind to someone, you went out of your way to call an old relative, to call a friend, call your daughter, call your brother, call your sister, mend a relationship. Those are the kind of things that oftentimes you go, wow, for the neighbor, they really needed something done. I just went and did that for them. And you'll see how you feel. The gift you've given them actually gives you a bigger gift. And I've said it before, but I just wanted to make sure that was the case. So in what we do here, we do study a lot of stuff. We read all sorts of books. We go to all sorts of programs. I was just with Don Connolly. I was just with Ron Carson, with some of the top advisors in our country, in our business, in a chairman's council group down in Chicago. And it was great. It was wonderful. But most importantly, it was, what could I learn? This is my whole focus. What can I learn from this to bring back to you? I wasn't interested in how great people were doing. I wasn't, interested in all the stuff that's temporary, but I was interested in what pieces can I take away from this to make your experience here better. That's how we focus. We're fortunate to be around some of the very best in the business. And what happens is we can bring the very best ideas back to you to give you the best experience. So we just had a very, very strong period of that over the last 2 weeks. There's about 200 things I want to share. I won't share them all because it's too difficult. And obviously that would be kind of I actually usually try that. But I do want to end with this Future Loop part as well. Future Loop to me has been a wonderful piece of our equation, but there's a couple things happening right now. Why do I study so much the Future Loop? Why do I study what's going on at Abundance 360 and spend a week out there when we can? Because let me give you a sample. Right now, there's a one-person eVTOL, that's vertical takeoff drone, and essentially it's for one person, that will fly up to 100 miles, and it silently travels with 0 emissions. It's like remember when everybody first got in the Prius? It's like the Prius of personal air flight, and it's actually being Tetra Aviation's new vehicle. Smallest drones could revolutionize agriculture and search and rescue efforts. That was my first thought when I saw these little drones flying around 8 years ago. Oh my gosh, going into fires, going into study what's going on, finding people who are lost in the wilderness, that's going to be a phenomenal piece, and it's beginning to do so. Another one, though, is Amazon's AI-powered cameras in van determine drivers' pay by scoring them on safety interactions. Think about that. You now have a camera with AI able to watch people and see how all the good that you're doing can actually benefit you, the company you're with, and in this case, the driver's pay. I suppose you could look at the negative if you'd like to as well, saying, man, if you're just goofing off, now they can catch you with that, with this AI. So, another one was really, really good. Every car made after 2027 may have drunk driving monitor systems built in. Think about that. How about if we eliminate drunk driving, one of the #1 killers on the roads in America? Drones could do it, obviously driverless cars could, but every car after 2027 may have that as a mandate in it. Another one too, I think the last one that was kind of an interesting piece here, there's a nanoscopic tool that could help doctors detect cancer in a routine urine test, rather than all the methods you have to go through now. Those of you who know what I'm talking about, who are over 50, understand that one. And one more, there was an artificial stomach that they made. It's helping scientists deeper understand how physical forces influence food digestion. When you eat and what you do afterward also makes a huge difference. The last one is how robotic probes help humans explore the moon in May again. They have done it before. They're actually talking about putting a hopping lander to explore the lunar surface. The moon has all of a sudden become a big focus again. You've seen Richard Branson, you've seen Jeff Bezos, you've seen these superstars with you of space race actually go into space now. It's pretty interesting. I haven't yet seen Elon Musk fly to Mars, but some people would say, I hope he does soon. Because he won't be able to talk so much about things. I go, he's amazing. A lot of stuff he's doing is amazing, but sometimes people go to that. That's just one. There's a lot more going on in the future and Future Loop. One thing that does for me, though, the personal human interaction is the thing that we need to focus on. It's us, we're here. I think the biggest single risk and the biggest single possibility, GPT-3 and artificial intelligence, is now moving at an unbelievable rate, almost not understandable in its advancement. When it begins to think for us, we begin to be less human. It's an interesting thing going on. I think it's something we need to watch. We're continuing to watch that as well. But there's a lot of progress that's going to happen with regress. So net, I think it's a fine line between the good and evil of what's coming up. The fine line was for Ken. Anyway, I appreciate you being on here, letting us rant a little bit more. There's so much we want to go through. It's absolutely amazing. But really the key is I want to go through this. We're Gentian Retirement. We're here to help you plan it, live it, and give it. Very, very important. It's what our focus is. And thank you on behalf of our team here at Gentian. Thank you on behalf of this weekend. There'll be a few of us. It's going to be a very light staff at the music festival because a lot of people are on family vacations. I'll be at the wedding, if you will. But for the few that are there, thank you for coming. Enjoy it. Enjoy each other's company. Talk to each other as well. But stay safe, stay positive, and be grateful. Thank you all.